podcast is Christian. This podcast is Reformed. This podcast is post-millennial, optimistic, and reconstructionist. And this podcast is for fun.
All right, welcome to episode 9 of Reconciled Radio. We are glad to be back here today. Guys, how you doing?
Pretty good, man. How are you?
Good. After a hectic setup here, this is the second day in a row that we've had to change locations and do something completely different. So.
Second episode in a row, yep.
But
we made it work, so we are here with Jacob on the ones and twos, our bearded Knox.
Howdy.
Or what were we calling you?
I
Mocha.
Mocha Knox.
And Jesse. And our buddy Joey, who joined us last episode as well. I bribed him into being here again today because I love him and I cherish his thoughts. How about that?
You bribed him? Why come you're not bribing me?
Well, because this is your brainchild, so
okay.
you have to be here.
I have to be here.
So.
And I run all this. So.
Yeah. Also, we need you.
That's true.
Joey's not needed, he's just wanted, and that's better.
Yes, it is. It's great. I literally showed up completely unprepared. I didn't even have headphones, and
I know. What's your deal?
I got catered to.
Episode 10. That's when we'll make it work.
Yeah.
We made it work.
I'm super excited about our episode today. We do have a guest. Our guest today is a husband, father, pastor, business owner, writer, abolitionist, and a Christian reconstructionist. He is one of 3 hosts on one of our favorite shows, Cross and Crown Radio, which you can find on iTunes and Spotify. He is the teaching pastor and church planner at Cross and Crown Church in Warrenton, Virginia. He released his first book, The Fight for Joy, in 2013, and his second book, Be Holy, Learning the Path of Sanctification, in 2014. He blogs infrequently at his website, jasongarwood.com. Oh, that gave it away. And also serves as a board member of Reconstructionist Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, the Dr. Jason Garwood. Woo!
How's it going, brother?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks, guys, for having me.
Oh, of course.
Thank you for being here, man. We appreciate all of your ministries that you do. We love Reconstructionist Radio. We love Cross and Crown. I love Cross and Crown Church. So we love everything that you guys are doing over there.
Yeah, the feeling's mutual. I really enjoyed your guys' last episode there talking about AI. That is definitely a really interesting topic.
Yeah. Are you with me? Do you think that we should implement AI parenting?
I'll withhold my answer.
Smart move.
Good
hey,
call.
Yeah.
Jason, thanks for coming on, and we just want to congratulate you right off the bat on the announcement of the seminary that you guys are starting. So cool. We're going to get into that later with you, but before you're allowed to answer any questions, we have to test you, and we've prepared a game called Michigander Trivia, and in our midst here we have you and Jesse, the only 2 native Michiganders here, and so we're going to put you guys up against each other head-to-head in 5 quick questions of Michigan trivia. Are you ready?
I'm ready as I'll ever be. That's for sure.
Same as me.
All right.
We need to add in post some dueling banjos.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we do
All
need
right.
some dueling banjos.
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 It's a new
So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to say the question, and if you guys think you know it, the first one to say his own name, I will call on, and you can give it a stab. And no beards are going to get plucked today. I don't know. Maybe we'll get violent. We'll see where things go. I don't know. All right. You guys ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
First question. Which one of the 5 Great Lakes does not connect to Michigan?
Jason. That would be Lake Erie.
Wrong answer. Jesse, you want to take a stab
Can
at that?
I go? Do I have to say my name first?
No, we know it's you now. Go ahead. That's what I thought too, Jason. I thought it was Erie, but it does touch.
Does not connect
Yeah.
to? Is it Michigan?
No, come on. What?
I know the answer now.
Okay, what is it?
It's Ontario, right?
Good job,
Ontario,
yes.
okay.
Lake Ontario is
All
the
right.
only Great Lake that doesn't touch Michigan.
Well, I was trying to think of which one down at the... Yeah, I had him flipped.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll give you a half a point for that one, Garwood.
Good job.
All right.
Half a point.
Number 2. What is the only state that has more shoreline than Michigan? Don't be looking, Jesse.
I'm not looking.
Jason.
Jason.
Would that be Alaska?
Yes, it is Alaska. You were at 1.5 points. Alaska is the only state with more coastline than Michigan. Michigan has 3,126 miles of shoreline, the most freshwater shoreline of any state. So, all right, 1.5 points for Jason, 0 for Jesse. Number 3. What is the common nickname for people from the Upper Peninsula?
Youpers.
Jason.
Jesse.
Oh, Jason! He's playing the game right. Jason, what's the answer?
It's you. It's
Yeah! Good job.
Well, I forget rules, so...
All right, that's is that 2.5 points for Jason?
Yep.
Sorry, Jesse, you got to play by the rules, dude. No
Sorry.
cheating.
I'm a rebel. I can't help it.
Number 4. Name the 4 major professional sports teams in Michigan.
Jesse.
Jesse.
You have the... I'm not looking, dude. Trust me.
I
So
don't
the
want
4
you to
major
cheat.
ones...
Yeah.
So of all different...
Correct.
Okay, so you have the Detroit Lions,
Yep.
you have the Pistons, you have the Red Wings, and you have... Oh, man. 4... come on.
Uh-oh.
I just moved
What
here
did I
from
say?
California, and I know this one.
Right.
You missed the baseball team. Subtle hint.
Oh.
Wow.
3, 2,
Why is my brain not
1.
working?
Jason, for the steal, give us the 4 professional sports teams in Michigan.
It's difficult to be a sports fan in Michigan, but we have the Detroit Tigers,
Why is my brain not working?
Lions, Pistons, and the Red Wings.
Good job. All right, that's like 3.5 points or
I
something.
only know that because I made a recent trip to Walmart.
Yeah.
And you have the racks
Tigers are everywhere.
all over.
I'm like, so much for LA Lakers.
Right.
All right, last one. Number 5. What famous record label originated in Detroit?
Jason. Is it... I'm going to guess because I don't know, but is it Motown Records?
It is Motown
okay.
Records.
I was thinking
originated
that.
in Detroit.
I was not sure, though, so I was not going to answer that. I'm like, I'll let him do that.
Good job. Jason with the win. Give him a
Good
hand,
job, man.
guys.
I'm just going to tell myself I threw that intentionally.
He's been kind to our guests as well. All right, cool. Thanks for playing along, Jason. Hey, what was it that initially got you started down the road of becoming a Reconstructionist, and can you tell us about that process for you a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I'll try to give you the short answer. I grew up in southern Michigan, so
Northern
I was
Ohio.
born and raised. Yeah. No, that's blasphemy. All right. I grew up in a dispensationalist camp. I was a Rapture defender for a long time. Ended up going to college, and then really at that point, I just felt like God was calling me in a different direction. It was then I really started to take reading and studying the Bible seriously. And it really started when I began to understand Reformed theology. So I'd moved to Philly where I met my wife. I went to Bible college, was learning and reading, and still, I think I graduated feeling like I was still in the Dispy camp, but I was definitely questioning it. And ended up really becoming involved in the Acts 29 network early on. My brother-in-law is a church planter in Philly. And, started to understand Reformed theology, at least the soteriology of it, and then moved into really, once I learned that there were other views, the one we all love, post-millennialism. Yeah. Started reading, it was Keith Matheson's book, really, on post-millennialism that just triggered me in a good way. So I just kept reading, and then finally I'm realizing, oh, wow, we have, Jonathan Edwards, who's post-mill, the Hodges, a lot of people in history that, believe this. It wasn't just a made-up doctrine. And so, from there, I got a hold of Bonson and read By the Standard, and it was all over.
That was it.
That was it. I read that and thought, my goodness, I've never read such a thing in my life. Wow. And I just couldn't put it down. I think I read it in just a matter of a couple days just because it was so refreshing, to hear a coherent, argument for God's law and why it matters, because I never thought I needed it before. And so once you get that down, interestingly enough, I then understood presuppositionalism. Usually people come to theonomy from precept, but I was backwards a little bit. And it just sort of fell into place, and then it strengthened that. That's really my journey into Christian Reconstruction. Yeah.
What do you think that there's value in identifying as a Reconstructionist? Even your guys' Cross and Crown Church website mentions it. Do you think there's value in identifying that? What is it?
Yeah, I do. I mean, we were conscious about being shrewd in our language, so we want to be thoughtful, judicious, and I think for the most part we just didn't mind, because some people would say, and I've even heard others, fairly well-known pastors across America say, well, I don't want to call myself a recon because, back in the 80s, all they did was fight and argue. Mm-hmm. And, well, everybody does that. Calvinists do it all the time.
Yeah.
So, Republicans fight all the time. Democrats fight all the time.
True.
I mean, it's just the way it is. So the label, I think it's redeemable. I think it's important to distinguish, not that the word Christian needs, an adjective to make it better, but it certainly needs clarification because we're not pietists. Mm-hmm. So we're not going to walk around and say we are non-pietistic Christians.
Right.
No, we want to build something. We're trying to reconstruct something, and so I don't think there's any reason to shy away from the language.
Right. And when you say we're not pietists, you're talking about just the kind of shallow Christianity that's popular, where it's very inward focused. It's strictly between you and Jesus, right? Can you expand on that a little?
Yeah. Piety itself is a good thing. I mean, we're supposed to pray. I think fasting is a legitimate expression of the Christian faith in certain seasons and times. We should be a part of the ecclesia, locally laboring and working. And so, as far as piety is concerned, that's a good thing. But when you attach the ism to it, like everything else, sometimes it can be a bad thing.
Right.
And pietism being this Gnostic, Neoplatonic view of the world where everything's, either material or spiritual, and the spiritual matters more, so go hide in your prayer closet, that type of thing.
Okay. Jason, talk to us about discipleship a little bit. When a new family comes in to worship with you guys at Cross and Crown, maybe they're brand new believers, how can they expect to be loved and led by folks at Cross and Crown?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I think in a lot of ways that's where the rubber meets the road. We would all believe in the Great Commission. We want to make disciples. But again, not being pietistic, we're not just trying to create converts who are then in submission to the church. They should be freed in the sense of free to pursue their calling, their individual purpose, all these different things. So, yeah, I think for Cross and Crown, we have a variety of people. We just had a couple more families move here from Michigan, some friends of ours that we had known when I was in Michigan. And I know they would say this, they're still, really digging in and learning a lot of some of these concepts. But I think what we're trying to do is create an environment where people are challenged. So a lot of discipleship is you sitting in a class and rehearsing the 66 books of the Bible. Oh, see, I have them memorized. Great. And then it's sort of just this repetition of information when discipleship should be a long-term transformation, sanctification in the fullest extent. And not just you as an individual, but your church community, your whole, the community you live in. So yeah, as far as discipleship, I think really what they can expect is, yes, to be loved and cared for, to be challenged, to also really not just be challenged in terms of understanding concepts, but be challenged in figuring out ways to push the antithesis in every area of life, not being shy about how do I become a better father, a better mother? How do we educate our children with Christian education? How do we take our business and use it for the glory of God? How do we hit the streets for the work of abolition, not just of abortion, but I mean, I don't know if you can read my shirt, but we want to abolish a whole lot of things. So it's one thing they can expect is to not just come and sit and not participate.
Okay.
You might sit. Yeah, we gather weekly every Sunday evening, and we sing. We have a liturgy, and I do most of the preaching and teaching. But outside of that, though, we're really connected day to day. So we're trying to challenge people to grow. And there's a whole host of ways to do that, especially when you're, individual. Our guys get together, individual meetings, the ladies get together. A whole bunch of different things happen, and that's part of the culture. And really, that's where I would answer your question, probably landing on this. We are trying to create a culture So come and participate in the culture.
Right, right. And when you say, just because I know a little bit about you guys, when you say that, there's regular meetings going on and people are very well connected, that's not necessarily just church programmatic meetings, right? I mean, that's kind of happening in different contexts.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the guys will go and see the new Avengers movie in a couple weeks, and we'll have guys that'll get together and help somebody do their landscaping. And those are all like wonderful moments of discipleship. Right. It's an all of life thing. And the ladies are going to get together tomorrow evening and they're going to do their thing where they just fellowship at a coffee and wine bar and just enjoy the evening out of the house. And that's how us as men, we can serve our wives.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of things happen all the time. I mean, just this weekend, hey, we're going to the park. Who wants to come? And it's just a lot of, it's not always in the planned moments. Sometimes it's unplanned.
Right.
It sounds incredibly relational.
Yes.
Cool. Love that.
Yeah, you guys jump in, or I'll just train us right through this thing.
You'll be a mic bully.
Yeah, I will if you guys don't stop us. Yeah. Hey, Jason, just out of curiosity, how many people show up on a Sunday?
Oh, we have, I suppose, including kids, probably 50.
Okay.
Maybe.
Awesome.
Cool. We have some connections all throughout the. We have throughout the DC area. We have some friends that are closer, some strategic partners we do a lot of abolition work with. So, yeah, I mean,
cool.
The core group probably be a little smaller, but yeah, that's about what we have in our community.
Hey, Jason, you said earlier that when new people come, there's like an expectation for them to somewhat participate. Maybe bring clarity, just because I think maybe a lot of people who are listening to this, when they hear participate, they think probably like usher at the door when someone comes through, or like play on the worship band and serve on the hospitality team. And maybe could you give us some clarity on what you mean by participate, because everything you described sounded incredibly relational. It sounds a lot like Jesus and his 12 disciples, so I love that. But maybe for the sake of the listeners, maybe we can just clarify a little bit what that means.
Yeah, we don't have a greeting team, but we'll say hi. We're all the
novel.
Welcome to the family.
Yeah. We're all the greeting team, and we've even joked man, we should do like a church repent at our own church, outside. And
that's hilarious.
But I mean, I guess the answer to that is as simply as I can make it. Participation in terms of, sort of use what you have, do what you can, start where you are. And if you're a mom of three, we have 3 kids. My wife, Mary, and I have been married 12 years. We have 3 kids, 11, 7, and 6. And she's busy. Homeschool, co-op work, there's a lot of stuff. For her main ministry is raising these eternal souls. So she's not necessarily going to be out at the abortion clinic with me or at the college like we were last week. So that's okay. I think participation needs to be less about the programs, because we don't have those types of programs. We're the greeting team, and we all show up, we all set up very little bit what we have to set up, and we all greet, we all fellowship. It's kind of a decentralized thing. But participation means that you get the worldview, or at least you're striving to get the worldview, and you're striving to utilize what you have where you're at, sort of thing.
Awesome.
Very cool.
So with your guys' vision and strategies at Cross and Crown, equipping people to press the crown rights of Jesus into all areas, having an eye towards building a social order, nurturing strong covenant-oriented families, etc., has that changed your approach to preaching, and preaching being a means of discipleship? Has it changed your approach to preaching at all from your early ministry days?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. My first full-time pastor position was in Michigan. I took that in 2011, and it was at a larger church. It was about a 500-person church in a small town of 5,000. So we had it was a great ministry opportunity. And when I got there, I was sort of rethinking some things. I was still learning. I was very young. Still am, but but my approach to preaching then was more like, I didn't always buy into the information dispensing thing, but I wasn't sure. I kind of thought about it maybe in terms of more of a pietistic understanding, where you're supposed to just maybe feel good about what I'm saying. And people should. I think they should be comforted with the gospel. Absolutely. But as I began to, my theology shifted and I began to learn and grow and transition into this fully orbed worldview, my preaching became less about that and more about sort of not, I'll say it this way. Oftentimes the goal of preaching is usually just getting people into heaven, when the goal should be the edification of the saints and the spurring on of the dominion covenant in their lives. So it's less about coddling and more about maturation and challenging. I think it was my friend Bojidar who said, you preach and teach to the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah.
And you should. And so that challenges me because we got some heavy hitters at Cross and Crown. And so every week I'm really challenged, and I take a lot of time to study and prepare. And because for me, it's not, I think preaching in the ecclesia is incredibly important. I think if we're doing our job, we're always going to be making disciples, right? People are always going to be growing. But I think when that replaces the preaching of the ecclesia to the world, then we have a problem. So my transition from preaching was more about how do I spur on our people towards the dominion covenant rather than let me just explain the text.
Sure.
And,
okay.
come up with some cute tweets you can send out, and more about here's the text. Let's study it as a community, as a family. But then how does that connect to our larger ministry? Because I think the church is supposed to be, in Isaiah, Israel was called to be a light of the nations. Jesus says he's the light of the world. He sends us into the world as light as well, reflecting him. So I think that light, though, as the psalmist says, is God's law word. And we are to shed light on cases of injustice, for example. We are to shed light on how we should structure society so that it glorifies God. We should be shedding light on these things. And so I feel like my preaching is less about coddling and more about that.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah, when you were talking earlier, I was trying to remember who I heard say it, and I think I may have even read Rush Junie making the point, but Bojar for sure making the point that, from the churches that we are used to, typically you'll hear pastors preach to the kind of the lowest common denominator, right? And so the people that need some meat in there, they will never ever get fed because the sermon is structured specifically to make sure that nobody gets left behind. And maybe it was Bojidar, but he was making the point that you got to give people somewhere to reach to. Like if you're always preaching the lowest common denominator, there's nothing to reach for, there's nothing to grow into. So that's a really interesting kind of paradigm shift as far as preaching goes.
Well, especially when you consider the admonition of Hebrews 4 and 5.
Right.
Like many of you should be teachers by now. Mm-hmm. And I've been in those churches where you have men who have grown up in the church their whole lives and they are stuck on milk. And Hebrews is very clear on what milk is. Mm-hmm. We think milk is like, oh, Jesus died for me. And then the big stuff is, oh, sanctification. No, all of that's milk. Mm-hmm. The resurrection, baptism, all of that's milk.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's reaching for people. And look, I don't know why we do this in our churches, but we are consciously working against one of the primary things Jesus told his people to do, and that's take up their cross. It's not easy. Mm-hmm. So we sort of, throw it on a coffee cup and think, oh, yeah, take up my cross today while I'm, sipping on my Starbucks.
Right.
No, like your whole life is to be subservient to Jesus Christ, the King. Mm-hmm. So even in the church. So don't lower your expectations, make them higher.
So how do you handle that, like with, like a newer family or someone who's new to theology? Is there, you preach to the smartest guy in the room or the most experienced guy in the room, and then throughout the week and throughout different discipleship opportunities, you're helping them along, kind of putting the training wheels on for them a little bit? Is that how that works? Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, I mean, and not only that, like helping them know how to dig deeper. Because here's what I found in my ministry: whenever I've done that, and I even noticed that back in Michigan when I was making that transformation, people were really hungry.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's not like they're going to leave and, man, that was offensive. I had no idea what he was saying. I think people are genuinely looking for meat.
I do too.
I think that's because they're driven by that. They're supposed to want that.
Yep.
And when we expect something low, we're going to get something low. Why don't we aim for something high? But yeah, I think that would be one aspect of it, is not only just in preaching in our gathering, but just, again, part of the culture where we can have one of our mothers come in and encourage, the wife.
Yeah.
And the men can be an encouragement too, and challenging. It's a cultural thing. You have to challenge men to step up. You don't like reading Van Til? Do it anyway.
Yeah.
Do
the hard things, right?
Do it. Do the hard stuff. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Cool. We're super excited for the launch of Cross and Crown Seminary. I think just especially after talking to you a few times privately and just kind of knowing who you guys are, it feels like this seminary is really born out of a desire to do discipleship as well. So for listeners who haven't heard of it yet, can you give us kind of an introduction to what this seminary is all about? Tell us about it.
Yeah. I guess the short commercial for it is, for us, we know that we have a lot of problems in the church, and it's easy to pick on low-hanging fruit, apathy, cowardice in the pulpit, those types of things. But a lot of that is geared. A lot of those problems stem from this cycle of Bojidar calls it the Denethor ministries, where we take all the money and then tell them it's all going to burn anyway. And so this culture of seminary then becomes a place less about building the kingdom and more about, equipping an elite group of men to parse Greek verbs. And seminary, I think, belongs to the church. It doesn't belong to the cultural elites. It doesn't, I'm going to get called a Marxist for that. All right.
Not by us,
but
brother.
It does, yeah. But it doesn't belong to, the man of the cloth, where everybody else is just, the peons who do the work of ministry. I think education, and that we're trying to redeem that. We're trying to redeem the concept of seminary and put education back in the hands of people. And it's whether it's your children, we homeschool, we teach them a whole lot of stuff, especially about taxation, being theft, and those types of things.
Amen.
And so they're learning a whole lot of things that they'll never learn anywhere else. And I think that's the idea of the seminary, is bringing education back to the church, bringing it back to people so that they can build their little corner of the garden world and toil for the kingdom, and not go and get, a $50,000 MDiv,
right,
and be in debt. And then this ties back to what I said earlier. You end up with guys who are afraid to say hard things in the pulpit because they need to pay the bills. And it's all connected.
It's true.
So the seminary program is it's a 2 year, roughly a 2 year. We have 11 modules, everything from Old Testament, New Testament surveys, systematic theology 1 and 2. We're doing biblical law, eschatology. We're tying Reformed and Covenant theology together for a course. Church history, philosophy and apologetics, nouthetic counseling, social order. Those are the 11. And basically, I've spent several months just compiling resources and putting together a program that's cost efficient. It's hopefully going to encourage the mentorship aspect of discipleship, where we have someone asking hard questions. That'll be me, asking tough questions, asking what you're learning, challenging you, and hopefully growing in sanctification.
That's awesome.
Cool. Real quick, I had some. This is just a side thing, but I loved how in your modules how you had nouthetic counseling in there, because that's one thing that I seriously see lacking in a lot of even churches, where it seems to me that a lot of the instances that I've been a part of, the counseling, when it talks about either marital counseling or things like that, it's very kind of worldly in a sense. It's very kind of, goes more towards like the what secular psychologists and things like that, they'll kind of, use those kind of terms and things like that. But when it came to nouthetic counseling and really learning about that, it was just like this eye-opening, like, this seems to be spirit-led. I mean, if we're going to talk about counseling people's souls and counseling people that need help, I mean, it needs to be done by the Spirit, by the Word of God, and that needs to be the forefront. And so I just had a question. Do you read any, like Jay Adams or guys like that? Yeah. I just got his first one, the Introduction to Nouthetic Counseling, and so far I've just been kind of slowly going through it, and it's really, really good. So.
Yeah, he has a great website with a lot of information on it too.
Yeah.
Like free articles and things that you can read, and it's really solid. I mean, we're Christians, we're Bible believing Christians.
Right.
Why is it that we settle for humanistic versions of psychology when we have the scriptures?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Cool.
It's profitable for teaching and rebuke and all these things. Why don't we use it? And yeah, that was a very intentional. We intentionally put that course in there. And I think, Brian, didn't you say you were reading Cure of Souls?
Yeah. Yep. About halfway done.
Yeah, that book's that's one of the books you have to read for that.
It's amazing
module. Cool. Yeah, it's life-changing stuff.
It is. It is. Yeah, I every time I pick up a new Rushdoony book, kind of like you with Bonson, like, you know, a few of us went to Bible college here and did the 4-year degree, and we read lots of important works and all the big time Reformed guys and all that. And so, you know, we've read the Sproul's and the Calvin, and we love all that stuff. It provided a super important foundation. But for whatever reason, when you pick up Bonson, and I think it has to do with the law. I think it has to do with taking the law seriously. But for whatever reason, when I pick those guys up, it just churns in me like nobody else has been able to do before.
Yeah, it's really, he and Van Til, I think, were probably the most brilliant men in the 20th century. Yeah. Rushdoony, I mean, I certainly have some reservations about some of the things that Rushdoony would say, but nothing major, like anything, you know, super, like, you know, he didn't believe in the Holy Spirit or something.
Right.
But definitely brilliant men who challenge you in ways that your average run-of-the-mill Reformed evangelical, they don't even have the capacity to do it.
They don't know what to do with it.
Right.
Yeah.
So how long have you been working on this thing? It seems like a major project, and what's been the thought process in building out the content of the program?
Yeah. It was probably about a year ago when I thought of the idea.
Oh.
And then just got busy, you know, transitioning, church planting, all this stuff here, because we've been here a couple of years now. But I think it was probably about 6 months ago I really started putting my head to work on it.
Okay.
And the process was simple. It's not just this a la carte thing. We're teasing out some ideas for the future on how we could, like, maybe somebody could sign up and do one course, and there's some things attached to that. Sure. But as far as the program, though, I really stopped and asked myself a question: what would I have wanted, 15 years ago, if I could have had the opportunity to get this worldview? How would I have wanted it dispensed to me in a way that makes sense? And that's the way. And so the program is really sort of a reflection of me and my journey and helping people get to a place where this worldview makes sense, that they can process it and not just know it, but do something with it. Mm-hmm. And that's really the heart of it, is moving from biblical knowledge to biblical practice. Okay. And that sounds great, but you have to do it.
Yeah. So what would it look like? I mean, if one of us signed up and got into the seminary, we contact you, kind of what would be the steps? I mean, what would the next 6 to 9 months of our lives look like right after getting signed up?
Yeah, we built in a scripture memory thing too. You'll be asked to memorize scripture. So what could you expect? Well, you would be expected to pretty much right away start reading, start memorizing scripture. You're going to have lectures you're going to need to listen to, and then I'm accessible, so you can ask questions. And then once a month, we will sit down and video chat, and we'll talk about it. And I think that's the key, is being able to regurgitate what you've learned and be thinking, and have somebody examine you and say, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about, applying it this way? Or I think that's the catch. So what you can expect is it probably will take you 2 months to do a module.
Okay.
So there's 11 modules. We're looking at 22 months. So we just call it 2 years, roughly. Yeah, and you're going to be required to read all the books. You're going to write a paper. You're going to need to write a paper to tell me what you have learned and what you disagreed with, what you agreed with. Because the other thing is, we want you to think critically about things. Don't just believe it because Rushdoony said it. Follow the train of thought. Follow the biblical exegetical, components. Follow all those things, and really then interact with it, with your writing. So you're going to read the whole Bible. We've picked certain books that you're going to read with each module to tie into it.
Tell us some of them. I want to know what some of the books on the list are.
Yeah. So Old Testament Survey is the first course. You're going to read Peter Leithart's book, A House for My Name. Okay. And it's a smaller book, but I tell you, it's a very, very great introduction to the Old Testament. And I think Leithart does a great job of explaining the narrative without getting too bogged down into details. James Jordan's book, Through New Eyes. I don't know if you guys have read that one or not. And then Vern Poythress, who is probably technically outside the recon camp.
Sure.
His book, The Shadow of Christ and the Law of Moses, is really good. And it's something we should interact with.
You know that one, Joe?
Yeah, I read it in college, and I just gave it away to a friend, and I regretted it as I handed it to him. But I read it twice, and it changed paradigms. It was one of the first books I read in college, and my professor I had to write a paper on it. It was awesome, life-changing in a lot of ways.
That's great. What else? Give us a rundown.
Yeah.
I'm so interested.
Yeah, well, systematic theology, you're going to tackle Rushdoony's 2 volumes. So for Module 1, you're going to read Systematic Theology, Volume 1, and Volume 2. And the thing is, with Systematic Theology 2, you're going to have to read his One in the Many as well.
Okay.
That's
on the Trinity, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, ultimately. Yeah, he's building on Van Til's work of the Trinity being, where equal ultimacy finds its purpose, its meaning, its coherency.
Okay.
Biblical law. You're going to need to tackle Volume 1 of Rushdoony's Institutes. No doubt, one of the most important works of our day. Another thing. I'm looking at my notes here because I have to keep track of all this. I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but I have it sitting on my desk here. The journables, where in Deuteronomy 17:18, the king was required to write out the book of the law.
Yeah.
That's one thing you're going to do in that class. You have to write out the entire book of Deuteronomy.
Wow.
So
you have to memorize it.
Well, no.
Man, I've been in college. I've been in college before. Don't mess with us. I know what you're saying. Memorize it.
Yes, you're gonna have to rehearse it on video chat and have to sit for how many hours that takes.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't want to do that to himself as well.
Yeah.
So the last module is social order. That is something I guarantee you will not find in any other seminary on the face of the planet. What is it?
Yeah.
What's the module?
You won't find it out. It's really the capstone. It's everything 1 through 10 has led to this principle of we are building a social order, and the social order we work from is the kingdom of God. Mm-hmm. So we're not working from the humanist cheat sheets. We're not looking over their shoulders and stealing from them. They're the ones that should be asking, oh my, what are the Christians up to? And that's what we're trying to do. And a social order is you building a culture where you care about God's law. You're not just talking about it, but you're doing it. You're enacting it. We have 2 other big projects coming, by the way.
Feel free to let us know.
That are late. They're all connected to this. I'll give you a hint in a minute.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Hey, by the way, only the guys at Cross and Crown could announce the opening of a seminary and then say we have 2 more big projects coming.
Yeah.
You guys are sick.
That's what happens when you decentralize things. People get to work.
Dang.
It's true.
That's good.
Well, and I'm not caught up. I can spend my time doing these things. I'm not caught up in being the traditional pastor where I'm expected to put on all these programs and stuff.
So no helicopter dropping Easter eggs on.
Oh, what?
No.
I thought we were doing. We're not.
We'll do it, but Garwood's not. About it.
Well, it is.
No.
We'll do it for my birthday, not for Easter's.
Yeah.
I'm triggered by past events, so I'm not a good person to talk about that. Anyhow, so I'll give you some of the reading. You're going to read Rushdoony's groundbreaking book, Foundations of Social Order, because we need to know how doctrine actually affects how we live.
Game changer.
One of my first North books I ever read was Millennialism and Social Theory, which is just, that is a boxing match, man. It's good. It's really good. My friend Joel McDermott's Restoring America.
Yep.
That's one of the projects we're doing that I'm working on that we're close to being done, is taking what he has done there and actually doing something with it locally. So I'm right now working on getting, because we're about to elect a new sheriff this fall. And what I want to do is put on an event where we are asking them hard questions, like where do our rights come from?
Wow.
Because that's an issue. So I want to challenge them with that. And really, it's taking Restoring America, and we're basically calling it Restore Fauquier County. That's our county we live in. And it's going to be a website. We're going to seed an ideology where we are tired of being taxed to death. Here's steps we can actually take to get rid of all of it. It could be county secession. Let's break off state secession. Wow. I mean, those are things we should be talking about. But yeah, that's one of the projects we're going to do. And I'm hoping that it'll be something that other folks can take as a blueprint and implement it in their county. So
that sounds awesome. That gets me really excited. You know, someone asked me the other day, like, why I focus so much on taxation, because I put up a lot of silly memes and stuff like that on my personal Facebook. And I wasn't even talking to the mic, huh? No. Sorry, guys. I was just talking to Jason over there.
You're coming in.
Yeah. Good. Somebody asked me why the focus on government injustice, why the focus on taxation, and you know, part of it is it interests me. I think economics are important. Part of it is, of course, I see God's law applying to all those different areas. But I think one of the most important aspects, and I hope people understand this about that new program that you guys are launching, is it's also about loving your neighbor. We want to look out for the people around us by not having them taxed to death. It's not about us specifically. It's about loving our neighbors by holding our magistrates accountable, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we just recorded our next episode, and we were talking about whistleblowing and statism.
Yeah. And
statism is a faith for all of life. And until we get that down and know how to combat it with a true faith for all of life, then we're not going to win, and we're just going to be railroaded by taxes and the mandatory vaccine nonsense. That's not going to go away. That's the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
We're going to see that come right back very soon. So we need to fight. We need to fight for society and our culture, for our children, for the future, because God demands it.
Mm-hmm. A lot of Christians would disagree with you. They would say that there's no reason to fight, and it takes a paradigm shift.
Yeah, it does. I mean, but I don't know how you can read the book of Acts and not be compelled to fight.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I still have the sticker on my car that says you can have my car in case of rapture, because I'm just holding out. So.
Oh man!
And I already told Joey he could have my books, because I'm assuming he's not going to get raptured.
That's hilarious.
I think Poythress is in there, by the way. You can have that. I've got his book on dispensationalism anyway. I know that for sure.
I already have it. I just give it away.
Cool. Jason, we could talk to you forever. We all are building a social order here, so we have to go to work and hopefully make some disciples there tonight. We'll have you on again soon, because we could just pick your brain for a couple hours. Man, thank you so much for joining us. We love your guys' show. I listen faithfully. It's become one of my favorite podcasts. And we're 2 for 3 on Cross and Crown Radio hosts now, so put in a good word with Reasoner for us. We're coming for him next.
Good. I'll see him in a little bit. I will definitely tell him. Thank you guys for your generosity, for your encouragement especially. We love what you're doing, and it's exciting. I'm excited to see how the kingdom will be advanced through our partnership together too, working together.
Yeah.
Hey, where can listeners go to find out more about Cross and Crown Church and Cross and Crown Seminary, and anything else you want to promote as well?
Yeah, crosscrownchurch.com is where we're at. You can go to the seminary tab. You can read about it, learn about it. If you have questions, you can email us. The email's on the website there too. All our radio stuff's there, and you can find our podcast on iTunes and other places similar to you guys. So
awesome,
cool. All right, well, hey, this has been a good episode, guys. I'm loving it. Jason, thank you so much for being on with us today on our 9th episode. Right, we're on number 9, right?
Yeah.
Wow, we're getting somewhere too. Episode 9. You can go ahead and find all of our Reconciled Radio stuff on Facebook at Reconciled Media. You can find us there. You can also go, if you have comments or questions or anything like that, you can actually email us at reconciledmedia@gmail.com. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, for any of the listeners. And also check us out on YouTube. We usually are trying to do video now and having the video put up on the YouTube because, frankly, it's cheap and easy and free. We can just put it up there, and it's awesome.
On the YouTube.
So, yeah, and kind of, in all honesty, it helps me to store all the information kind of there, and I don't have to have so many stuff on back drives and stuff. So, anyway, find us there. YouTube, go like, share, subscribe. Same as on iTunes. Find us there and on Podbean. And thank you for listening.
Christians, go cultivate a kingdom culture. I got you.
You got it.